And it is a great honor to welcome from the Department of Transportation, Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who's joining us now to talk on the program. And it is great to have you on board, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you joining me on the program to talk with us. And what an incredible year it has certainly been. I was talking to one of my colleagues a little while ago, and we were talking about the fact about the infrastructure law being signed in a little more than a year ago. And he was describing the signing of the infrastructure bill as one of the biggest wins for the trucking industry and the supply chain, going as far back as the 1950s, when Eisenhower signed in the interstate highway system. How do you see that? Welcome to the program. He described it as a great win for the economy and the American people. How do you see it? Welcome.
Well, thanks. We're excited to see now not just the legislation having moved through as it did a year ago, but really getting down to work, getting these dollars out on the ground, getting the programs up and running. What that means is everything from places where we've been able to fund more parking for truck drivers. We know truck parking is one of the biggest issues that the people in the industry are facing, to being able to make these improvements on bridges that have been load limited, not accessible to truckers, forcing them to go out of their way. Just good old-fashioned highway repair, state of good repair on our roads, improving other parts of the supply chain, the ports and the rail that fit in along with trucking in such an important way. So right now we're in a real stage of action, getting those dollars out the door, getting these things built, and I think that's going to be the focus really for the next few years. And some of these projects are going to take years to deliver. Others will be done more quickly than some of the longer term ones. But what all of them add up to is a better transportation system, a better country to be a truck driver, a better country to just be a consumer or a commuter, and that's going to continue to be our focus.
Yeah, this really drills right down to Main Street USA, doesn't it, right? Making things better for everyday people. Take a look back now versus this time last year and the things that have gone on. Got to be very, very satisfying to see this from your standpoint. How do you see that overall?
Well, look where we were a year ago. You had all these ships backed up at the ports. People were talking about supply chains, saying that, maybe Christmas was going to be canceled this year. And, of course, that's not what happened. Matter of fact, we had an all-time record high in terms of the goods that moved through our system and in terms of retail sales and Christmas gifts and everything else going through our economy. That is a direct result of the contributions of the workers who made it happen, especially truck drivers, longshore workers, and others, and a lot of partnership that our administration did, rolling up our sleeves, working with companies, whether it was companies like FedEx and UPS, trucking companies, railroads, ports, saying, okay, while we're working on the long-term issues, what can we do in the here and now to make sure the goods keep moving? And we did, but we knew there would be more work to do. And so now, a year later, there's no more backlog of ships off the West Coast or anything like that, but still a lot of issues that we're working on, trying to make sure that more drivers choose to stay in the career, which means making it easier to build a long-term living, dealing with things like parking, things like compensation, helping encourage more women to be truckers, make sure that it's safe and easy for them to have that career, and then of course these long-term efforts on the interchanges, the highways, and everything in between. We got a long way to go, but so much has gone on in this year, and we're proud of that work.
Talk a little bit more about the Department of Transportation making the supply chain more resilient. Do you think we'll see more technology that will be brought to the forefront with this, the resiliency side of it? How do you see that overall?
I think so, yeah. I mean, for one thing, we've got an effort called FLOW. This is a partnership between a bunch of different players in the supply chain systems to better share data. I think a lot of Americans assume that there's just easy, good visibility, that a truck driver, a port operator, a warehouse all know kind of what's where and how the goods are moving. But anybody working in industry knows that it's a little more complicated than that. Actually, there's a lot of things people can't see, even people who have a direct interest in having this data. So we're trying to get that data sharing through voluntary efforts. We're encouraging that. That's going to use a lot of technology to help, I think, create efficiencies, have fewer situations where drivers are having their time wasted at a warehouse or at a port gate, for example. Again, that's not going to happen overnight, but we're seeing some good progress there. We're seeing good progress in terms of the kinds of investments that we're making and how they tie in with technology. Give you another example. We're investing in truck parking. We
Yes.
funded a couple of projects, for example, one in Tennessee, one in Florida. And some of these states have begun setting up systems that allow drivers to see in real time where the spaces are opening up. We've got to tie in that parking inventory to a real-time readout so you can actually use it. Those are the kinds of things I think you're going to see more of as we get these technologies wired up. And it should make for certainly a better system in terms of the flow of goods, but also just a better human experience in terms of being part of our supply chains.
When you mentioned a better part of the human experience, this will certainly help with the retention side of the industry. Correct, Annette? Do you see benefits from that standpoint with retention?
Yeah, this is a huge issue. No matter how many people we recruit into being truck drivers, we're just filling a leaky bucket if we continue to have so many drivers after a year or two say, this career's not for me. So the retention part, making it safe, making it convenient, making sure it's well compensated, those are things that we're working on right now. We've pulled together various groups to get input to the department on changes that we could be making, hearing the voices of the industry, hearing the voices of drivers, and we're going to continue working on that retention piece. America owes so much to our drivers. We got to do more to make sure we're supporting drivers not just with words, but with action.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Secretary. I know you visited recently with the American Trucking Association and had some experiences meeting with truck drivers. What was that like? What were some of the stories you were told?
Well, the first thing I appreciate when I talk to our great drivers is the focus on safety, and this is so important. I mean, one of the reasons why you don't just let anybody have a career as a driver, why you have these rigorous tests and ELDs and all the other things that drivers deal with, is to make good on the life and death responsibility that drivers have. And I've met all of these drivers. Sometimes I'll ride along with them for a while, talk about their experience, and what you hear is a sense of pride and a sense of commitment to that kind of safety message. We also hear about some of the issues that people face, and it just strengthens our commitment to make sure that we are providing that kind of reason to stay in the career, make it easier, more convenient, more family friendly. Whether you're an over-the-road driver or whether you're sleeping in your own bed every night, we got to make sure that we're really supporting that. We're getting some of the red tape out of the CDL process, pushing apprenticeships. A lot of those steps are based directly on the things we learn when we get with drivers and ask them how their experiences have been.
What's really interesting, Mr. Secretary, is talking with some of the drivers that have been in the industry for 20, 30 plus years or more and have got 3 million accident-free miles, 4 million accident-free miles under their belt. And like you're mentioning, what a great sense of pride to be able to accomplish that. People that are behind the wheel, they really do believe in the industry. It really does come from the heart, doesn't it? What do you think?
I think so. I mean, you talk about the way, when you talk to drivers about the pride they have in the work, the way they talk to their loved ones about the work that they do. And, you think about it, especially this time of year. I was out at UPS, and one of the things I said to the workers out there is, we recognize reindeer can only do so much. Like, at the end of the day, we're counting on our drivers to make the holidays special. But it's day in, day out. It's every time of year. Getting vaccines to where they need to be, getting food, baby formula. Things have been in the news a lot lately. This all depends on drivers, and they rightly have a lot of pride in the work that they're doing. I think, one silver lining on everything the country's been through in the last 2 or 3 years is that, words like supply chain, that used to be just a very technical term that, maybe people like me would use, that's about it. Now it's actually something that's more of a kitchen table term. People understand that supply chains don't just run themselves, that you have to support the people and the systems that are making it all happen. And when I talk to drivers and others in the field, what I know is that, we're talking about folks who think of infrastructure not just as a theoretical issue, but it's your workplace. I mean, America's infrastructure is where you go work every day. And that's part of why we have to make it as safe and as up to speed as we can.
Mr. Secretary, thank you very much, sir, for joining me on the program. And from the Department of Transportation, that is Secretary Pete Buttigieg. And, sir, all the best for the holiday season. And come back and join us again real soon. We appreciate the time.
Well, thanks. Same to you and your listeners. Hope you have a great holiday season. We'll talk in the new year.
Very good, sir. Thank you very much. And again, from the Department of Transportation, Secretary Pete Buttigieg. So look at the year gone by and where we are going into 2023. And drivers, interesting when you hear about some of the efforts that are underway to try to move the needle forward for the trucking industry, bringing in more truck parking, more technology. These are stories that are certainly going to be following over as we go into next year.